Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I'm so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body wisdom. Our bodies are full of magic and wisdom if we can tune in and listen. This month, we'll be exploring how to create a more intimate connection with the unique language of our bodies and use it as a tool for deeper healing. So stay right here and let's hop into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey everyone, it is Mary, and I'm excited for a brand new episode in this month's theme of body wisdom. Today, I get the privilege to interview guest expert ALLI Wise. We have such a powerful conversation. I can't wait for you to hear it. But before we jump into that, I want to make sure that you go back and listen to the first two episodes from this month's topic. And it's just going to help lay the foundation for today's conversation. And the first episode, I talk about the 3 ways to honor your body's wisdom. And I really get into the foundation of this thing called body wisdom, how we all innately have it, and how along the way we became disconnected from it. And I share ways to help you rebuild trust with your body and begin to create a deeper connection and really honor what you have inside of yourself, which is this beautiful intelligence and body wisdom. So go check out that first episode. And then last week I had my BFF Lindsley on the show. I know y'all love her. We get into the energetic body. So obviously when we think about health, when we think about our body's wisdom, we often think about our physical bodies, but we also have an energetic body. And this is a topic that I couldn't think of anyone better to have this conversation with than Lindsley. And we get into just talking about what is energy, how our body is an energetic body, and how you can begin to hear if our energy inside the body is in balance or out of balance. We go through all the energy centers of the body, the 7 different chakras, and talk about their characteristics, parts of emotions that show up in these centers, parts of the body ailments that show up in these different centers. And it's a really cool conversation. If you've been curious about energy, chakra, some of the woo-woo stuff, this is a great entry episode for that. So go back and listen to last week's episode. But today I have ALLI Wise on the show, and she is a trauma-informed life transition coach. And I found her on Instagram, and I just fell in love with what she was posting about somatic healing as it relates to trauma and how we can really enter into the body to gain deeper insight into our healing process. So we have a really powerful conversation around the body's wisdom as it's informed from the lens of trauma. So I think that this would be great to listen to. Whether you think you have trauma in your life or not, definitely take a listen. But she is so passionate about healing, about transformation, about unlocking human potential. And she is the founder of the Reconnection Process and the soon to come online platform called Awakened Life and Leadership Institute. And you can find her on Instagram at Awaken with ALLI. But her passion, her desire, really, you can just feel it coming from her heart. But her mission is to support the unfolding of her own transformative power. And that's what I just love about her work, is she's always pointing us back to our own wisdom, to our own intuition, to our own knowing. And so I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation with her today. So without further ado, here is my interview with ALLI Wise. Hey everyone, it is Mary, and y'all know I am loving this month's topic on body wisdom. We have had so many amazing conversations already, and I'm so excited. As you just heard, we have ALLI Wise on the show today. Hi ALLI, how are you doing?
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for having me today. It's a pleasure and an honor to be talking to you about body wisdom, one of
Oh,
my favorite topics.
well, you are like to me such an expert on this topic, specifically in processing trauma through the body somatically and how the body connects to our thoughts and to our emotions. And to me, like it's really an honor to get to kind of get inside of your brain and learn all of the research that you've done around this and how you help your clients process through really challenging emotions by getting into the body. And I'm assuming that there is some kind of story here as far as how you got interested in this idea, this concept, this topic of our body and the connection to our emotions and our mind. And so, share a little story, a little history about how you got into this work and sort of what it is that you do with your clients now.
Well, I think life brought me here. Yes, not for one single moment throughout my life. I thought about that I'm going to do this kind of work. So in 2015, I was involved in a car crash. And that particular event completely took my nervous system on the verge of shutdown.
Yeah.
So for the next 3 months, I was coping with severe anxiety, startle, insomnia, not able to sleep for more than 1 hour or 2 hours per night.
Wow.
Complete disconnection from my body. So severe, what now I would refer to as PTSD, like post-traumatic syndrome. And at that time, I had no idea what trauma is. So after dealing for 3 months with this kind of symptoms, at one point I said, well, I cannot handle anymore. So wherever life wants to take me, just take me there. And through some synchronistic events, I came across yoga and meditation.
Yeah.
And even though I didn't pursue a path of yoga or meditation, but what actually they offer me was this shift of attention from the outside to the inside. Yeah. So that for me was extremely powerful because I have never came across to this idea of looking inside ourselves as the source of our experience. So from that moment on, I became to be more attentive to how my body is processing life. And after, I think, 2 months or 3 months, I became very aware of the disconnection from the body that I was experiencing.
Yeah.
Like I was walking and I felt like my head is walking, but not my body. Yes. I was showering and I couldn't feel the water over my skin. So that's severe disconnection.
Wow.
And I said, how is possible that, I reach up to this place? What actually led to this place? And, noticing and witnessing all these symptoms, a wave of compassion just surged naturally. And I said, well, from that moment on, I'm just going to listen to what my body needs, and I'm going to make all my decisions in all areas and aspects of my life based on what my body needs. And I want to tell you that I don't think that I took another most important decision in my life, that actually listening to what my body needs in this moment and following its guidance. Yes, it's like my body was my guiding star. It just shifted me towards what it needed. So this is why I'm so passionate about body wisdom. Yes. And I was on this journey of reconnecting with the body for nearly 3 years. And at that point, although I was very much aware, yes, about what is happening inside my body, but I felt like there is something that I'm missing. There is a missing piece. And actually at that point, I became aware of what is trauma. I exposed myself more and more to trauma-informed content and how the body stores trauma. Everything made so much sense to me. Everything I was empowered to connect the dots, like what was actually happening inside my body. So that was I mean, trauma, we all have experienced trauma at one point in our life. So this is why it's so important to connect and see how our bodies are experiencing life in this very moment.
Yeah.
So this is what took me to share this understanding about trauma, to share this wisdom, because I think that it's so needed. I mean, we have an epidemic of disconnection. There is no one single person that I'm speaking about that is not facing this disconnection from the body, this disconnection from the wisdom that is so inherent within all of us.
It's so true. And I experienced that as well. And I love that you shared the story about your accident. And, I think when people typically think of trauma, they think of something that's really big, that's catastrophic, whether that is abuse or rape or an accident or something kind of outside of themselves happening. And I think what's interesting is the more work that I've done is that trauma doesn't have to mean necessarily like something like a car accident or your house is on fire or you're physically abused or in some sort of altercation. There's trauma that's happening even just subtly to most of us, especially as children. We all have experiences of that. And I think it's really important to talk about trauma in a new way so that we can all kind of begin to connect the dots and identify our own places of trauma within us. Because like you're saying, the body is the connection through working and processing through that trauma, not necessarily the mind. And I think that's different. We've kind of been taught, well, just go sit in a therapist's office and talk it through and talk about, your history or your childhood, and you'll work through it and you'll be okay. And, you'll process through it. And I think now that we have a lot more research coming forward, we're realizing that that isn't necessarily the most effective way in handling trauma. So I think we have to, number one, identify sort of what trauma is in the first place, and then talk about ways of looking at the body as a way of processing through it, not necessarily just cognitive thought or talk therapy, traditional talk therapy. So will you talk a little bit about what trauma is and why the body is sort of the key in processing through that?
Well, thank you so much. Brilliant question. So in the first place, I want to tell you, like in my work, when I say the mind, I don't mean the mind that is in our brain, yes, or in our heads. For me, the mind is just all over the body, yes, in this field, yes, body mind that is processing every moment information. So when I speak with my clients about mind, so I'm including the mind and the body both at the same time, and even the energy field. Yeah. So this is what is the mind actually. So what is trauma? Trauma is, first, it's an overwhelming, intense energy. It's an intense upsurge, sudden energy. This is the first thing that could be traumatic. Yes, that intensity that may come from various events, and we refer as this kind of trauma a shock. Yes, so that sudden upsurge of energy that may come, yes, like for example from a car accident, yes, from the sudden death of a loved one. So what we need to understand here is that it's an immediate upsurge of intensity that the nervous system cannot process at that particular moment. Yeah. So, and also we don't have the support, yes, to handle that amount of intensity and of energy.
Right.
And where is that energy going? Yeah. So trauma is not in the event, but it's in how our nervous system is adapting, yes, to cope with that intensity, to cope with that ongoing stress, yes, that is happening in our life. So that intensity, that energy becomes stored in our body and in our nervous system. Yeah, so that is trauma. I like to refer to trauma as the airbags of a car. Yeah, so the trauma is a response. Yeah, so they are there inbuilt in all of us, but they get activated when a threat is perceived. Yes, and when there is this intense energy, yes, immediately the trauma responses are activated. Yes, the second one is, and probably you are referring more to this kind of trauma that is so overlooked in our modern society, and we refer to as the childhood trauma. So for a child, not having that attunement with the parent, that basic resonance with another nervous system, not having their own emotional needs met. It's like how many of us heard when we were children, don't cry, go to your room.
Right.
So that dismissal of how we feel, of our reality, of our truth. How many of us felt safe to express our emotions in our environment, in our family of origin. So where is that energy going? That energy is not vanishing. That energy is part of our life experience. So that energy becomes stored as well. And even if it's not an immediate upsurge of energy, but that builds up over time. And creates a myriad of adaptations, in the way that we respond to our relationships, in the way that we view ourselves, in the way that we view our body, in the way that we view world. So that is also an unprocessed emotional charge that disrupts the way that the nervous system is responding to life. And again, there is also intergenerational trauma. Things that are passed on from generation to generation. Like I looked in my family tree, and I literally saw how trauma is passed on from generation to generation. From my mom to me, and I took the decision to stop. I said that this will stop with me here. But if you see with the naked eye, you clearly see how this is passed on from generation to generation. And it's also the collective trauma. So we are born into a traumatic environment. So if we look the messages that we hear from our society, from our culture, from education, all of that is built upon dismissing, because we are speaking now about body wisdom. Think about like what is actually including the body. The education is not including the body for sure. The focus is mainly on developing the cognitive capacities. So that is trauma. Disconnection from nature, is trauma. This body has evolved in connection, is a product of evolution of nature. So that is trauma. But trauma, it's, even if we understand cognitively, what is trauma, unless we don't connect the dots in our bodies, it's very difficult to process that intensity. So this is what trauma is, that upsurge of energy that is now stuck, frozen in our bodies, and creates a lot of symptoms for ourselves. So symptoms at this point is how the body is communicating with us. So just managing symptoms is not very helpful. Probably is helpful for the short run, but in the long term, we need to go deeper at the root of the problem. And that is unresolved and unintegrated trauma. And exactly as you said, it doesn't have to be something big. For a child, just not having their emotional needs met is traumatic. And again, is different from nervous system to nervous system. What is traumatic for me, probably it may not be traumatic for you. So it's very, very unique to each of us.
I'm so glad we're kind of slowing down to talk about this, because there are so many different types of trauma. And I love that you even brought in the generational trauma, the collective trauma, the ways that we're disconnected from our bodies. And I know one of the things that you've touched on, and I think we haven't really gotten into this a whole lot on the podcast, and I think it would be really helpful to look at, is sort of the role that patriarchy has played, the role that our cultural programming has played in shaping this disconnection from our bodies, kind of shaping the way that we see our bodies, how we are not, I mean, I would say probably it really contributes to our disconnection from them, or a disassociation from them. But will you talk a little bit about that cultural patriarchal influence and how that um, affects how we kind of go through not addressing the body?
Yes, of course. So, as I mentioned, we are born into certain cultures, family dynamics. Yeah. So, think about, I would invite each and every one of your listeners to think about what are the messages that they've heard about their bodies when they were children. Yes. What were the messages that they heard about the body while growing up? Yes. How is your body supposed to be? Yes. How is your body supposed to manage life? There are so limiting beliefs that we have about our bodies, yes, that we should look in a certain way. So we project an image of our bodies outside of our own wisdom. Yeah. So we project an image from what society demands from us, from what media demands from us. Yes, because there is a lot of media messages that we hear, and we want to be. Yes, and this is what is creating this disconnection from how your body actually is, your unicity, your unique template of your body, your wisdom, your intelligence of your body, your needs. Yes, your body is uniquely designed, yes, just for you to express yourself in your own unique way. So this is why I say that, patriarchy is not actually helping us, but I'm so glad to see that this is shifting. Yes, and women are becoming more empowered. Women have this shift of reconnecting to the wisdom of their own bodies and source, yes, their choices and their decisions more from what is actually the felt sense in our bodies. Yeah. So this is, I think, it's the breaking of all these patriarchal messages that we hear, shifting and not outsourcing, yes, our choices from everything outside of us and actually coming back to the wisdom of our bodies. Yes. And this is a process. Yes. I want everybody to know that this is a process. It's important that we make this shift. Yes. And we begin this process of reconnecting with our bodies.
Yeah, it's so necessary, because I think you're right. Like we have received so many messages. I think most importantly that our body is flawed, it is broken, it's not good enough, there's something inherently wrong with it. I mean, I was just looking at a woman's post the other day about all the pressure that women face after they've given birth to lose their baby weight. And how that in our culture, especially Western culture, is so prevalent, of like getting your pre-baby body back and needing to lose the weight and tone up and doing it in 10 days or doing it in 2 weeks. And we revere these women, these celebrities that are able to do that. And yet the majority of women, I mean, it's like, not only is birth a traumatic yet miraculous experience to the physical body, it's like just the healing process and time that it takes. And yet we have this sort of outside timeline on kind of arbitrary on what it means to be a good woman, to just how quickly we can get this body back, and it's just as one example of sort of this messaging that gets instilled in us of what it means to have a good body, and yet totally denying that inner wisdom of the body's ability to know how to heal, how quickly or slowly to heal, to reserve excess weight or hormones and all the things that our body needs to do to keep ourselves balanced emotionally and everything after birth. And it just got me thinking about that, like how unbelievably disconnected we are from tuning in and reconnecting with the body and really seeing it almost as something that we have to control, something that is against us, almost like an enemy in a way. And so I know that part of your journey, as you shared, was spending several years like learning how to reconnect with your body. And I would love to know, like, what was that process like for you as you kind of were so disconnected, like to the point where you said you couldn't feel the water on your skin in the shower, or you couldn't even feel your physical body walking? What were those steps like for you to even begin to hear that voice inside? What were some of the things that you did to cultivate that?
So I think the thing that opened up for me was the realization that something was fundamentally wrong in the way that I was raised, in the culture that I was raised, yes, with the society. Yes, if I have reached a point at 34 years old when I'm sitting in my room contemplating suicide, being so severely miserable and so severely disconnecting, yeah, so I I didn't grow up in jungle. Yes, I grew up in a family, in society, in culture. Yeah, so that got me thinking, like something must be fundamentally wrong in the way that I grew up. Yeah, so in that moment, I decided to stop defending my beliefs and questioning everything that I thought to be right. Yes, everything that I thought to be right. And I said, no, from this moment on, I'm just going to look at my life with naked eyes and see what actually feels true to me. Yeah. So that shift of questioning, yes, I began to reflect, like, what is actually my body trying to communicate to me with this, through these symptoms. Yeah. So that was the first shift. The second shift was because I was having so much problems and symptoms, like not being able to sleep. At one point in one night, I heard this inner voice, like, go near water. And I went to the swimming pool in my building. And after spending 1 hour there, I noticed how my body is responding and coming into this state of more calm, more at peace, more ease. So I came back in my room, and actually I was able to sleep for around 4 or 5 hours after 6 months, yes, or more. And I said, wait a minute. So if I'm listening to my body and actually act, yes, on that message and meet that need of my body, perhaps, yes, I'm on this journey of something very, very important. So that was the shift when I understood what actually listening to the body means. Yes, because we spend so much time in our head ruminating, trying to analyze, overanalyze, trying to doubt and overdoubt our choices, our decision, that we are completely disconnected from listening to these messages. Yeah. So again, I began to listen and then met that need, whatever that need was. And I'm speaking about basic need, like day-to-day needs. Yes. When I wanted to rest, I would rest. Yes. When I felt the need to connect, I would connect. When I felt the need to dance, I would dance. When I felt the need to go in nature, I would go in nature. When I felt the need to eat, yes, or use the washroom, I would do that. And I would not stop this biological urges of the body. Yeah. So I was just in this process of listening and acting and meeting whatever need was showing up for my body. And this creates a lot of trust and a lot of connection, because it breaks the pattern of denying what is true for you in that moment. Yes. So this is how the body and the nervous system restores that capacity of safety. Because what is trauma? Yes. A lack of unsafety, not being safe within our bodies. Yes. And why we are not safe? Because we are disconnected, chronically disconnected from our physical body, from our inner wisdom, from the intelligence of the body. Yeah. So this is what creates that inner unsafety, like I'm not safe being in this body. Yes, the body is not anymore a safe space to inhabit. So what is the tendency? The tendency is to disconnect. Yeah. So I was on this journey very patiently, very compassionate. Yes, just noticing what is happening. How is my body responding to life? So I would say that this is the foundation. Yes, the foundation of awareness, of rebuilding connection, compassion towards your body, listening. Yes. But the transformational trauma work happens when you already have this foundation and you begin to touch on those emotions that are stored within our body, that emotional charge, yes, that is stored within our bodies. Yes, so that is the moment. And you also begin to recognize, like, what is your nervous system default response to life. Yeah, so I would say that is the more in-depth work, the trauma work. Yes, that is what brings that sense of being at ease within your body. Yes, but the foundational, it's very, very basic human being in touch with your own humanity. Yes, with what it means to be a human being and not denying anymore your responses. Yes, and I would say that something else is very important, and that would be, we are so identified with the symptoms. Like we say, I'm anxious. Yes, I'm depressed. Yes, I don't know, bipolar for 20 years. So we are so identified with the symptoms. But when we begin to look at our life through the lenses of unresolved trauma, through the lenses that my nervous system, that this is a response of my nervous system. Yes, and it doesn't have to be, yes, I would challenge the modern medicine. Yes, it doesn't have to be a disease. Yes,
right.
Let's look at it. It's not an adaptation. It's not a response, yes, of the nervous system. Yeah. So having this shift, like, okay, this is how my nervous system is responding. This is how my nervous system is actually helping me. Yeah. So it's not that I am broken, I am diseased, I'm flawed, or there is something wrong with me. Perhaps everything is right with me. Yes. It's my nervous system trying to keep me safe and alive. Yeah. So I'm in this self-protective mode. Yeah? So just, waking up in the morning and asking the question, how is my body experiencing life in this moment? Pausing few moments throughout the day. How is my body experiencing life? Yes. How do I feel in my body? Just having this shift, this gentle shift toward the body and including the body in our experience. It's so, so, so important. And it will have fantastic healing signals for all of us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I feel like there were so many just words of wisdom and nuggets that you just shared. And I'm just like over here in my brain, just going, yes, yes, amen, amen, preach it. Because, so often we want to blame the body like it's doing something against us. And yet I loved that, what you said about what if it was actually doing everything that it was needing to do in order to keep you safe. And looking at all of our symptomatic issues, our ailments, our diagnoses that we've received is actually our body's way of trying to right a dysregulated nervous system, is really helpful, because then you can see it's not that there's something that just like kind of seeing yourself as the victim, like this is just something that's wrong with me. My body isn't healthy. It is full of disease or whatever. And actually seeing it as, when we aren't aware of what we're experiencing and the trauma that we've undergone and aren't actively processing through it, that job gets handed over to the body. And so then the body, because of its, amazing ways of trying to find harmony and balance, that's where we get disease in the body. It's like our nervous systems are doing their best. And yet if we're on this living in a constant state, which I would say for most of us, this has been true, like in that high beta, really survival kind of state where we're reactive, where we're hyper vigilant, when we're always sort of perceiving those threats coming at us unconsciously, right? Like that just becomes sort of our normal way of being. Like you said, I'm an anxious person, for example, or I'm just always stressed out or overwhelmed. That's sort of our natural way of being. It's like, how well can the body really function when we're in that state of like overdrive and stress all the time? Like it knocks us out of balance. And then our body's trying to find, itself in all of that energy and all of that extreme stress and trauma. And I would say that the body does a pretty amazing job, like even if it shows up in symptoms that we don't like or that are painful or that are challenging, it's pretty incredible when you start peeling back the layers and noticing how intelligent it is, like where your symptoms show up in the body relate to emotions, how they show up. It's like we think about people who have experienced grief, really significant grief, for example, and it shows up in the area of the body that holds grief in the lungs. And they have issues with breathing. They could contract pneumonia. There's a lot of different ways the body will very intelligently show us and point us back to, hey, there's an undealt with trauma and emotion, and it's showing up now symptomatically in the body. And I love that you shared that it can be really simple to reconnect and to listen. Like, I think sometimes we go, oh my gosh, I've got to have all this knowledge and do all this research and be, a doctor or a kinesiologist or a therapist to get this. And yet when you were sharing your journey about, oh, my body just needs to be in some water, and how that was something so simple, just literally required you getting up and moving locations and getting in water, contributed to your body feeling more safety, more at ease, able to get a little bit more rest. And yesterday I was working with a group of women, and I asked them, we did kind of a meditation where I had them slow down, pause, and tune into the body and see what their bodies were asking for. And it was so amazing to see the subtleties and the simplicity of what the body asks for. Like one woman, she felt like her posture was a little bit off. So all she did was sit up in her chair, she leaned forward, and she had a total realignment in her hips and her pelvis. And she was like, literally, it was hardly any shift at all in the body. And yet she was like, I feel like I got a chiropractic adjustment and I've been having all this pain in my hip. And just by going, oh, my body wants to sit upright and tilt forward, all of a sudden, boom, she had that experience of her hip shifting. And then another woman, her body just said, stand up. Like, you've been sitting for a really long time, just stand up. And she instantly got some relief that she was from some pain she was having in her back. And so it doesn't have to be this gigantic, life altering, we've got to stop our whole lives kind of response to our body talking to us. It's, to me, what is so profound, it's in those little tiny shifts, but it does require that slowing down to listen and to really attune to that voice.
Exactly.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the body, yes, the human body, the human nervous system is a product of more than 4 million years of evolution. Yes. Just think about, yes, from where it started and where it is right now. Yes.
Yeah.
Does someone think that there is something more intelligent than this human body on this planet? Yes, this is the ultimate intelligence. Yes, if the human body has gone through more than 4 million years of evolution, yes, and reached this place, so it must be something extremely, extremely intelligent inside. Yes. There must be a life force that is driving this body to heal, to sleep, to wake up, to act. There must be something, yes, that is driving this body. So with that, we need to reconnect. Yes. With that intelligence that we need to reconnect. Yes. We need to become. And, also that's something we got wrong in our society, is that we think that our original template is someone that needs to suffer. Yes. We have this like, oh, suffering is part of life. Yes. That is, I am meant to suffer. And that is absolutely not true. Yes. The original template is one of ease, is one of joy, is one of play, is one of wisdom, of intelligence. Yes. So we have to reorient ourselves. Yes. Because if we think that that is the original template, suffering, yes, then we just limit our potential. Yes. So we have to shift to see, to orient ourselves towards our original template. That state of balance, that inherent state of balance. And then the body and the nervous system that very gently will guide us back into that state of balance. Yes. When we begin to listen, we become like the sunflowers. Yes. We follow the sun where it leads. We go after the sun. Yes. And we'll come back into balance. And what you have just shared is so beautiful and so empowering. These very basic human experiences, listening, pausing and listening what my body needs in this moment. Perhaps a gentle stretch. Yes. It's not only the stretching itself, but it's the trust that you build with the body. It's like the body perceives this as, oh, someone is here for me. Someone is attuning to what I need. That trust is amazing. That trust is the foundation of healing.
Yeah. It's a relationship, isn't it? It's like we get to build a relationships with our body, and that requires constant communication. It requires trust that builds intimacy, that builds connection. And I'm just so grateful for everything that you've shared, and just this invitation to see our blueprint as something other than we've seen it, our blueprint of healing, our blueprint of the body's intelligence and wisdom, that all is already here. One of the things I think about with the body is like, it's like we have this sage, this wise sage with us at all times, speaking to us, whispering to us. We have access to that all the time. We don't have to go to some remote cave out in the middle of the Himalaya mountains. We don't have to go to a ashram or a mosque or a synagogue or a church. We have that conversation, can have that conversation literally in this moment at any time with our bodies, this wise sage inside of ourselves that holds the answers. And I think that's the invitation, is to begin to repair how we see our bodies. Something is to be, really honored and respected. And I just love how you have given us some more reasons why we can begin to really trust our bodies and cultivate that trust inside of ourselves. And I know that because of this conversation, my listeners are going to want to connect with you. And I would love for you to just share where they can find you if they're curious about working with you, how they can do that, but how can they stay connected with you?
Thank you so much, Mary. It was such a pleasure to engage in this conversation with you. So people can find me on Instagram. My handle is @awakenwithALLI. So they can find me there. They can check out my programs. I offer a one-on-one mentorship program called the Reconnection Process. Yes, because reconnection, I think, is the building block of any healing process. So I'm very honored to now be able to guide people throughout this exact same process, yes, of restoring that inner power within ourselves.
Yes. Well, I will make sure to link to your Instagram, which is amazing, by the way. Definitely, y'all go check it out because I mean, like literally every day you have the most amazing tips, like just so practical. I mean, I just eat it up every day. I'm like, okay, what is ALLI going to say today? So definitely go check out her Instagram and consider working with her. I mean, this is such important work. To me, when you can get into the body and begin to process what the body has been holding, what's been stored in the body, it to me is like the ultimate freedom in life and really opens you up to so much joy and peace and ease. So ALLI, thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your time. And y'all, I've got a couple more episodes left in this month's theme all around body wisdom. So make sure to share this episode with your friends, with your girlfriends, with your family, and share it on your social media. Tag me, tag ALLI, and make sure to come right back here next week for a next episode where we're getting into more body wisdom. But until then, remember that the purpose of life is to be grateful, to be great, and to be full. I'll see you next week. Bye. Hey y'all, thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.